It was good. I'm Isaac Lee, and we back to review not just one episode, but two. Episode 9, which is called A Lady Called Star Search, and episode 10, which is Good versus Great. So let's get straight into it. So episode 9, it focuses on Ada and her dreams of being on Star Search. She had already created this brand new original piece of music that she wanted to submit, because you know her first song, I forgot what it was, but I remember her going to the studio and then her finding out that everyone was singing that song, so she had to create something original, something that would make her stand out. So she submits it, and all this time she's thinking nothing ever came of it, but they're living at this hotel, and she doesn't understand that the red light on the phone means that she's getting a message, but she's thinking something's wrong with it. So she ends up calling people from the hotel to come to the room and actually check it. And they're like, oh yeah, you actually got messages. It's from Star Search. They're saying they want to come see you. They want to actually, they're interested to see you get to the next level. So she gets all excited. She's about to get to the airport, but her main concern is, how far does this go? Because she had all these dreams about being a singer and being on Star Search, but she's curious about how much time this is going to take away from her family, because they start kind of joking about it. Well, Rocky does, about how much time he gets to spend with Dewey and how much she gets to spend with Dewey, and all that time away just kind of like, it's not really weighing on her, but it's really giving her something to think about. Aside from that, you have this whole side story with Dewey and his father, and the fact that Dewey wants to go boogie boarding. And I shouldn't mention this takes place in 1982 when he's like 10 years old, so they're questioning if he's too young for that, but they ultimately end up giving him the board. But he's got there riding, and then of course he ends up getting into some beef with some other little kids, and they're like, nah, we like your board and you're gonna give it to us. And it's this whole little crew of little kids, and they got like a little knife, they trying to pretend like they're a gang and stuff like that. And I mean, he tries to hold his own, but of course he gets jumped and they end up taking the board. He ends up going to his father, he tells him what happened, they go back to him. When I'm looking at this scene, I'm like, okay, you got a grown man showing up to a group of kids with a knife. I'm like, this could go left so horribly, but it actually works itself out, because you know, the father shows up with Dewey ends up getting his board back. Meanwhile, Ada, when she comes back, she's been thinking about it more and more about how much time she would actually have to spend away from Dewey, and she just can't make that same sacrifice. She can't see herself making that same sacrifice that Rocky does, because when Rocky's on the road doing all these matches and stuff like that, he's away for a long period of time, and she just couldn't see herself making that same sacrifice. So ultimately she ends up coming back. She never even gets on the plane. She actually, you know, she gets all the way to the airport and then changes her mind. And then when she explains it, she's like, oh well, Star Search, they called me and they just said, oh, they made a mistake and that they meant to just contact somebody else. And at first Dewey's like, they called you at the airport? He's like, oh yeah, they called me at the airport, so no big deal, but how was your day? Like, she kind of like trying to get the attention off of her. It was funny how she sees a knife off to the side, like is that a knife? And then Dewey tried to switch it back, like, oh yeah, how was your day? Like, I should also mention that in this episode, it starts off with a debate. You know, it gets to the point in Dwayne Johnson's campaign run where he actually has to have this debate with another guy. And it's funny how typically in these settings, you know, one person gets 2 minutes to talk, another person gets 2 minutes to talk. But when they ask Rock a question about a particular thing, I forgot what the question was, but when they ask him that and he goes into a story, I'm like, dude, you only get 2 minutes. And I love the fact that they mention that at the end of the episode. And the other guy's like, you went past your allotted time by like 20 minutes. I was like, I'm just glad that they brought that up. I was like, dude, you can't be telling no whole story when you're like in the middle of a debate. You got 2 minutes and that's it. And then they jump to what was it, 1991, I would say. That's when episode 10, Good versus Great. And the big message about this one is about how, you know, you could put your all into something, but sometimes there are certain factors that there are certain factors that you just can't take an account for. You know, you try to really give 100% and put all your work into it, but sometimes, you know, there are things that just they don't really work in your favor, so you gotta just keep working harder to kind of like get yourself back in place in a sense. I don't really know if I worded that just right, but in this episode, you find out that he kind of gets his spot taken by oh crap, I don't know these football guys' names, but there's another guy that basically trying to get on the D line, and he ends up taking Dwayne's spot. So now he's feeling like, man, how do I get back into this groove or whatnot? I feel like I'm being kind of like left behind. And then that's when he meets Ray Lewis, and it comes across as him basically needing this friendly competition. He meets another person who's always in the gym early in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning, and he's basically just trying to get himself back into shape. At one point in time, he's having a conversation with his coach, and his coach is all like, you know what, you work the hardest and you got all this work ethic, and it's hard to find people like you. Would you like to coach? I'm like, come on, man, he's not trying to coach. Like, this man is all about trying to get into the game. It even kills him when we see him at the game, but he's like on the bench, and he's like, no, I got big things planned. I don't belong here on the bench. And then on top of that, he got his family like they're either in the bleachers or they're like watching at home, trying to see, okay, what plays do we plan? And then on top of that, money's getting tight now, and his mother's working at this place where she's basically doing like some telemarketing. She's at this small desk with a bunch of other people, and it's super hot in there, and it gets to a point where Rock is even trying to get a few dollars, so he works there as well. But he tells his mother, you know what, it's gonna take me some time, but I'm gonna get you out of here. But in the meantime, it's nice to see how he buys her this fan to at least cool her off, to at least get her a little bit more comfortable. He had one of the co-workers say, where do you get that fan from? And then that's when he throws in one of his catchphrases, know your role and shut your mouth. That was pretty much the messaging behind Good versus Great. How you could put 100% of your time and energy into something, but sometimes things may not work out how you plan. And sometimes it's good to have that friendly competition to push you to that next level. And I could get into a whole other conversation about that, but then I get way off topic. But at the end of the day, when it comes to those 2 episodes, those are just my thoughts. But what are yours? And if you like what I had to offer, hit that like and subscribe at the bottom. I'm Isaac Lee. This is The Rundown.